Hi there. Today I've got a race recap video. This is my ride in the first Flatlands Cycling Monday Night Gravel Series race from May last year. If you aren't familiar, Flatlands Cycling is a non-profit cycling club here in Fargo, North Dakota. I'm both a club member and a member on the club board, so I'm involved in helping put on this race and other events that we do throughout the year. We have 7 board members total that plan and execute these events, and we receive a lot of help from volunteers and other great clubs in town, like the Fargo Moorhead Trail Builders. We try to put on at least one event per month and often have more, like in the case of a multi-race series like this one, where we plan to do 4 races in 4 weeks. We do this gravel series, we have a mountain bike series, we host 2 gravel fondos, we have a few group rides, and even do 2 brewery meetups. If you want to learn more about Flatlands, head to flatlandscycling.org or find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Strava. A little bit about the course. We have just over 19 miles and 570 feet of climbing, starting in the green dot in the lower left, and then we work our way clockwise around the map. Mostly firm and fast gravel throughout the course, broken up with several minimum maintenance road sections in yellow there. We had everything from very loose, dry soil on these roads to backwoods type roads that weren't traveled very much and had ruts and puddles and bumps. So definitely had to watch out for those sections. Mostly flat course. There were some areas where we had rolling hills or false flat type climb. I pointed out 2 punchy climbs late in the race with those big arrows. I singled these out in my pre-race prep, just thinking they're long enough and steep enough where a move could go up the road, someone could get separation on these climbs. And finally, the race X factor. I put the unknown here for 2 reasons. One, the field. It's a local race, so we all know each other fairly well, but we just have not raced each other, so we didn't really know who the favorite was going into the race, didn't know how it would play out. Didn't know if there were secret alliances or some crazy cooked up tactics that could come into play. So yeah, it was just a mystery as to what was going to unfold once we all started the course. And then the other factor was the race format. A 1-hour gravel race is pretty uncommon in gravel racing. A lot of times they're 100 miles or multiple hours. With this one being so short, I was expecting a lot of aggression early and often. My pre-race plan was just to follow wheels, not let anyone get up the road, because if they get too far away, you just can't pull them back in a 1-hour race. So wanted to keep everything pretty tight and yeah, maybe use those late climbs to launch an attack or might even have to play a sprint on the last road. Just didn't know how that was going to unfold.
No speech about grit,
and here we are on the start line now with race footage. So first race, Flatlands Gravel Series. Jaden Blake is the president. He's the one on the right-hand side. He's counting us into the start.
4, 3, 2, 1, go!
And there we are, off and racing. So in the picture here, we have Ryan Erickson taking the early lead. He's a fast rider, so I'm happy to hop on his wheel. Like I said, pre-race, I just wanted to follow any early attacks and be in the front group. If you've been watching the wattage here early in the race, you can see that we're off to a pretty hot start. I think this is early race excitement playing out. This is the first race on the calendar after a long winter and early spring of training, on the indoor trainer or out in the cold North Dakota wind. So to finally have a nice night and to finally be lining up and racing, it was a lot of excitement and we were ready to go. Up ahead on the road, you can see a white pickup. That's board member Terry Steen. He is controlling the dogs. We had a pack of 3 dogs that belonged to a house off to the left. We couldn't find the owners to ask if they'd kennel them up, so we deployed Terry with some treats and he did a good job of wrangling them up. You can see here we have our early minimum maintenance road section. Wasn't expecting this. We had pre-ridden the course and pre-drove the course a week or 2 prior, and I remember this road being in good shape. We get to the race here and yeah, it's just a mess. Looks like they tilled it up or something, maybe trying to get rid of some ruts to prepare for farming in the spring. Not totally sure, but it made for an interesting surprise. You can see we're just hunting for the best line here, going all over the road because it's soft, it's bumpy, it's tricky to navigate, and using up a lot of energy too, trying to find a good line and maintain high rate of speed and power. And you can see the wattage is pretty high. I basically rolled up to the start line with no warm-up at all. I just didn't leave myself enough time, so yeah, this is quite a hard start for me. I'm also looking at Ryan's tires at this point and wishing I had 2-inch mountain bike tires similar to what he had. I was running 700 by 42s, so I was a little disadvantaged on that road, but like I said in the pre-race, a lot of this is firm, fast-rolling gravel, so I was pretty good later on. And you can see again wattage fairly high here as we approach the top of this climb. My brain was not fully engaged with the power that I was putting out yet, and just the situation of the race. I think I was still, pretty static or fuzzy-brained, just telling myself to hold Ryan's wheel, and then a little bit further down the road, sort of woke up, I guess you would say, and started engaging more with the race and with the situation, looking at my computer to see the power. And I'm always fascinated early in a race like this how easy the power feels when I have excitement and the adrenaline running in me. Wish that I could bottle that up and maintain it throughout a whole race, but yeah, can't do that. So just have to monitor it because it's still exerting that effort, and don't want it to come back and bite me later in the race. So here we're approaching our first true turn on the course. You can see this is a minimum maintenance road, very dry and very loose soil. Taking this turn cautious and then banking off that outside edge. Not really a gravel road. This is like that compacted field dirt. So it has somewhat of a firm base, but very loose, very dry surface. You can see up here Ryan's rear wheel kind of breaking traction a little bit as he's putting the power down. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit here and just skip ahead to the next part. All right, picking it up again after that left-hand turn. Strawberry Fields Forever Strava segment. This is a fun part of the course. There's a technical kind of left-hand into a right-hand turn over a bridge. You'll see in a little bit. You can see after the turn we were looking around, we were able to see that we had a small gap after that early climb and rough road. So here as I take the front, just kind of looking to maintain our kind of effort without going too far into the red, so that we can extend the gap a little further. Here we have a pickup on the course. They gave me some room, but I passed them a little close here. The camera doesn't really do it justice. I felt like I was brushing the mirror with my arm. Maybe don't do that next time, note to self. Leave a little more room. Anyway, here's that section that's kind of technical. Coming up here is a left-hand turn. You'll see I approach way on the right-hand side, trying to give myself the best angle to hit this left hand right here without taking off too much speed. You can see that's a technical turn. That bridge comes up fast, especially the edge, and then we're right into another right-hand turn. And again, going way to the edge, trying to carry as much speed as I can. I'd say exiting the corner with 20 miles an hour is pretty good, but to do that I had a foot out. I'm pretty sure I was drifting, front wheel, rear wheel. Ryan and I had a laugh about that afterwards, kind of saying, that was a little crazy. We both have a moto background, and yeah, foot out kind of felt like the moto days. So left-hand turn ahead, and then a short stretch of road leading to the end of the Strava segment, and also felt like the end of the first phase of the race. Everything up to this point felt like a blur. On this road and the next highway section, I felt like I could finally settle down a little bit after the fast start and the excitement, and getting through that technical section over the bridge, which required a lot of focus. So Right around here I started paying closer attention to my computer, monitoring the effort more closely, and starting to assess how I'm feeling more in real time. So the next phase of the race was to begin thinking and planning how the rest of this thing was going to play out. So Ryan and I are off the front here. We're working well together, but I wanted to apply pressure sooner than later. I didn't want to leave it for the two climbs that come later on in the course. There's a section of the course coming up not far from here that I felt suited my strengths pretty well. So it was around this moment where I picked that section as a spot where I would try to apply some pressure if we were still in this same situation, and kind of have an early test of how we're both feeling. So, and yeah, fun situation in the race. It might be just due to my lack of experience, but I find these moments in bike racing bizarre. You know, I'm on someone's wheel, we're working well together, but simultaneously I'm thinking of where I'm going to attack them. So it feels wrong, especially racing against a friend like Ryan, but it's also just a ton of fun. Alright, we are now done with the highway section. We swing wide to take this right-hand turn, get into the grass there, which helps us avoid the loose gravel that is right in the middle of the turn and allows us to carry more speed. So now we hit into the wild Strava segment, which is a fun part of the course, taking us back onto minimum maintenance roads. You can see there's a small hill ahead, and in my recon of the course, I had made a note of this hill, thinking that it was possible if we were in a larger group that someone might try to launch an attack here. So I was on guard going into it. Now it's just Ryan and I, so a smaller group that I was thinking might happen, but you can see I moved to the side of Ryan here just in case he went for it. I felt I could follow the move a little bit easier that way, but nothing happens. So everything's kept civil for now, and I fall back into line, preparing for the rest of this section. So we're still rolling along here on this Into the Wild Strava segment. You can see I'm off to the side, no longer drafting, because up ahead the road gets noticeably more minimum on the maintenance side of things. So we have this left-hand turn, which is someone's driveway, I believe, and then yeah, right there it hits, and all of a sudden we have ruts to deal with. There's mud holes and puddles, so I just wanted to have a clear line of sight so that I could pick my way through this. I didn't know exactly how it would be on race day, so that's why I was off to the side, no longer drafting. And yeah, just picking our way through this section. This is probably the most technical the course got at any point, so had to be careful just to pick good lines. And yeah, you can see just weaving our way through it. Alright, left-hand turn here, taking us on to the next Strava segment called Sandcrawler. This is a spot I'd consider making my first move if Ryan and I were still together, and since that was the case, I decided to commit. The wheel tracks in this road can get sandy and loose in spots, especially when it was as dry as it was on this day, and the whole 1 mile stretch feels like a long, slow drag uphill. So it's a type of road where you feel like you're putting out just a lot of effort but going nowhere fast. In general, I feel like that type of terrain suits my strengths pretty well, so this seemed like a pretty good place to go for it. I didn't launch an out of the saddle type sprint. I just tried to quietly increase my effort to the upper end of my threshold and above, and I plan to hold that for the length of this road just to see what would happen. Parts of this road get pretty bumpy, and so it might sound like my bike is making a bunch of noise, like someone's shaking a tin can of bolts, but that's just my CO2 and my Dynaplug banging against each other in my top tube bag. Above all that noise, I began to notice that I couldn't really hear Ryan on my wheel behind me anymore. I thought maybe a gap had formed, but I wasn't sure, and I was just continued to look ahead here. I felt good. I was having a lot of fun on this section, so I remain committed to the effort until the end of the road, and at that point I'd be able to sneak a peek to know for sure. Alright, there's the end of that road. I take a pretty bad line in the turn, but we made it through. I was able to sneak a peek, confirm I had a small gap, and so now I guess the work is just beginning. So from here on, my goal is to maintain and possibly extend that gap as much as I can before the two climbs that come later in the course, and have mostly flat roads ahead to work that gap as much as I can. So dealing with a little crosswind here, we'll get a tailwind on the next turn, on the next stretch of road, and then more crosswind. I'm going to jump ahead because there really isn't much to show for a while, so I'll pick it up at the first of the two climbs. Alright, so you can see we jumped ahead about 20 minutes. We're back, going over a bridge. This course is just super fun, very scenic. I enjoyed it a lot. And if you're curious, you want to see the full video of this race and see the entire course, I'll be uploading the full video from start to finish soon, so you can check that out. It might make for good indoor trainer entertainment or be useful for scouting the course for 2026. FlatLands is bringing the gravel series back for 2026, but we haven't made our final decision on routes as of January 2026, so stay tuned. But this one was a fun course, and we'll likely use it again or something very similar. So now, these two climbs. What does a climb in North Dakota look like? So this one starts out gradually going around this left-hand bend, and you can see ahead where it gets steeper, but not for very long. So this climb in total averages 3% over 0.37 miles, gains a total of 61 feet, and its very steepest parts are about 9%, which is, nothing to laugh at, but nothing too crazy overall, but it is a noticeable bump in our corner of the world. And an update on the race situation as I go up this steepest part. I was able to extend my gap, and I was solo off the front at this point. I'm feeling pretty good here, but I'm getting to that point where I can start to feel the effort accumulating, and I'm looking forward to the end of the race. So made it over the steepest part, but it's a false summit, so we still have a little bit of ways to go. You can kind of see the second crest up ahead where the climb truly finishes, but yeah, feeling good. A little bit of the race to go. We'll skip ahead to the next climb here after I get over this one. We're back, and coming up is the second notable climb beginning just after this bridge. It is called the River Climb North to South on Strava. This is another climb that is good and steep for a brief moment, maxing out at around 9 or 10% incline, but again it levels off to 1 or 2% for the rest of the distance. Right ahead in the shot here, this is the hardest part of the climb. You can kind of see where it maxes out there just ahead. The full stats, it's 0.63 miles long with a total of 81 feet elevation gain, and averages 2.4% incline. So it ends up being around a 2.5 minute effort for me in this race, but the fastest recorded times are right at the 2-minute mark. Again, not a massive climb by any means, but in our flat area it's notable, and in this race, in this course, it's notable because of just in relation to everything else, and that it's near the finish. So from here, it's just a couple miles to go to the finish, and we'll watch the rest of this climb, then skip ahead to the end. Alright, here we are coming to the end. There's Jaden at the finish line table, ready to give the signal. Got the cowbell going, and we're across the line. So I finished first in just under an hour at about 56 minutes, 21 seconds. Throw the stats up here on the screen if you were curious about average speed, power, heart rate, that kind of thing. Overall, very fun race. Great to have a local series to look forward to, participate in. I'm excited we'll be doing this series again in 2026, so look forward to that. That's all I really have for this one. I'll have video for race number 2 of this series coming soon. And I'll tell you now, that was a very different race than this one. We had lots of wind for that race number 2. Created a much different race scenario. We had a group of 4 or 5 for most of the race, so that was a lot of fun. Definitely something you'll want to check out. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.